To get started, we're going to have to use our imagination a little bit. I promise this is going somewhere, but you're going to have to trust me. This side of the room right here, you are a bunch of tigers, okay? But before you get cocky, there's a catch. You live in a zoo. Let's talk about your life for a second. You're a tiger, you're living in a zoo. Where do you sleep at night? In a cage. You sleep in a cage, and how do you get your food? Yeah, the zookeeper brings you food, and you get tiger breakfast, tiger lunch, and tiger dinner. On the weekends, you even get tiger brunch. Life is good. On a scale of 1 to 10, how easy is their life? I'm going to give it a 10. I'm going to say it's very easy. And on a scale of 1 to 10, how safe is your life? I'm going to say a 10. It's easy and it's safe because everything is always done for you. You hang out in a cage all day, you always have food, you always have water, and you always have protection. You are a zoo tiger. This side of the room, you're also tigers, but you live in the jungle. You live in the wild. Let's talk about your life. Where do you sleep at night? Pretty much wherever you want. You're a tiger. And how do you get your food? You have to hunt and you have to find your food. But let's talk about this. Is your life harder or easier than the zoo tigers? It's way harder. And are you safer? Who has the safer life, the jungle tiger or the zoo tiger? The jungle tiger, the zoo tiger. Absolutely, the zoo tiger has a safer life. Whose life involves more struggle and mistakes? The jungle tiger does. Why? Because you live in the wild. You have to learn to do everything on your own. You have to find food, and if you don't find it, you don't eat. And you have to learn to protect yourself and protect your cubs and find water and build shelter. You live in the wild. You are a jungle tiger. Now, what would happen if we took one of our friends from over here, a zoo tiger, and we put her into the wild where the jungle tiger lives? What happens? We have a dead zoo tiger on our hands. Absolutely, we have a dead zoo tiger on our hands. But why? Doesn't know how to survive, and how come the zoo tiger doesn't know how to survive? Never had to. You spent your whole life in a cage, in a box, and everything was done for you, and you never had to develop those skills. What about the jungle tiger? How does she do in the wild? Actually, I'll ask you in a different way. If I gave you $100, even US dollars, so they're worth even more, okay? I gave you $100 to bet it on which tiger is going to most likely survive in the wild, jungle tiger, zoo tiger. We are all in on the jungle tiger. And why is that? The jungle tiger learned how to survive, and how did she learn how to survive? By trial and error and by doing it. So in short, the jungle tiger learns to survive in the wild by living in the wild. And something that I want to point out to you is this, that the approach that involves some struggle, some mistakes, some hungry nights, the harder approach, the not safe approach, allowed the jungle tiger to do something that the zoo tiger could never do. The easy approach, the safe approach, the approach that involves staying in the box, absolutely gave us a dead zoo tiger. And that is how tigers learn to survive in the wild. But that is also how we, your students, your athletes, and you are built to learn. And that is what I study. I have the coolest job in the whole world because I get to travel around and work with sports teams, but I also get to meet and live with incredible researchers and professors and authors and coaches who study learning and development. And the people that really understand development and really understand learning agree on one thing, and that is that the best learning happens when we're operating at the edge of our abilities and a little bit outside of our comfort zone. Like, that is where we are built to learn, no matter what it is we're trying to learn, algebra or soccer. That is how learning works. The big problem we face, though, is this. I've given the jungle tiger talk to probably more than 10,000 people at this point. Second graders, professional athletes. And every person I've ever given the talk to will agree that the jungle tiger approach of training in the wild is more beneficial and will lead to more development for that tiger. But the problem we face when we approach learning in sports and in school, we approach learning like zoo tigers. We like to stay in our cage, and our cage is our comfort zone. And we all have comfort zones. You have comfort zones, your players have comfort zones, your students, your children. We all have comfort zones, and we all like to stay in them. Your comfort zone is just like the cage in the zoo. When you're in there, it is easy, it is safe, you look good, but just like the zoo tiger, you're not getting better. And so my job is to help people understand that, talk about why that happens, and then the most important part is to show your players, your students, your children, how to escape the zoo and get to the wild. Because that is where we learn, no matter what it is we're trying to learn. So let's talk about, why do people like it in the zoo? We like to look good. Why do we fear the wild? Why do we avoid the wild? Because it's unknown. There's struggle. There's failure. There's all these things in the wild that we resist. And today what I want to talk about is the mental approach to surviving in the wild. The mental approach to escaping the zoo and getting into the wild, and how that works, and how you can teach your people this approach. Got one more question for you. What is the key to success? It could be a one-word answer, and you can just shout it out. Attitude. What else do we got? Presence, confidence. Let's get two more. Effort and persistence. I love it. All of the stuff that you see on the t-shirts. Motivation, determination, effort, persistence, all of it, yes. And all of those things do help you achieve your goals, and they do help you achieve success, but there is something deeper. And that something has been discovered by this woman right here, Carol Dweck. She's a professor at Stanford, and she's been asking that question and researching that question for longer than I've even been alive. And what she's discovered is our mindsets, or our attitudes towards learning, play a huge role in achieving success and achieving our goals. And our mindsets are what allow people to become more persistent, more motivated, put in more effort. Those are all byproducts of our mindsets. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what she means by that and how that works. What she's discovered is that there are two mindsets people can have. Some people have what's called a fixed mindset. People with a fixed mindset believe that skills and abilities are set, and you sort of have what you have. Now, this could be a good thing or a bad thing. It could be like, hey, I'm a math person. Or it could be, I'm just not a dancer. Whether it's good or bad, they believe that your skills and abilities are set, and you have them or you don't. People with a growth mindset are a little bit different. They believe that skills and abilities are grown and developed. So if somebody's good at math, they are good at math because they've worked at it. And if somebody can't dance, it's because they haven't danced enough. So one way to look at it is this. People with a fixed mindset believe that you are not in control of your ability to learn and grow, while people with a growth mindset do. They do believe that you are in control of your abilities, that you can learn and grow. Now, this difference in mindsets causes a lot of interesting things to happen. One study that starts to paint the picture of the power of the mindsets, Dweck and her colleagues took hundreds and hundreds of students that were going into 7th grade, and then they gave them a mindset analysis to determine if they had a fixed mindset or growth mindset. And then all they did was track their math scores for 2 years. This red line represents the math scores of the fixed mindset group, and the green line represents the math scores of the growth mindset group. Huge gap there. And what this study starts to show us is people with a growth mindset tend to learn, grow, and achieve more over time. Now you're sitting there and you're like, all right, man, we're at a sports conference and you're talking about 7th grade math. How does this apply to us? The thing is, they've replicated this study lots of different times and measured different groups of people, like professionals, college students, high school students, middle school students. They've measured different things like problem solving, public speaking, dancing. And no matter who they measure or what they measure, they get similar results. People with a growth mindset learn, grow, and achieve more over time than people with a fixed. This idea is starting to trickle its way into the world of sports. Like I said, I have the sickest job of all time. I have got to hang out with some incredible coaches. And I spend as much time as I can in Anaheim, California with the U.S. Olympic volleyball team and their staff. And this is a screenshot of their whiteboard that's in their gym every day. And at the top, it's underlined and it's starred, which in the U.S. means it's important. Job 1, growth mindset. This program has all the money, all the resources, all the knowledge, and they choose to develop their athletes with a growth mindset. Let me give you some volleyball trivia real quick. U.S. women's team has been around for about 65 years, give or take. Their ultimate goal, I guess, is to win gold medals. You can do that at the Olympics, you can do that at the World Championships. So in 65 plus years, how many gold medals has the U.S. women's national volleyball team won? Any guesses? You can just shout them out. We have a 10 and we have, let's get a couple more. 110, 5, let's get one in the middle maybe? 30, okay, good. The answer is actually 1. And the 1 happened about 9 months ago. So for over 65 years, they never won a gold medal. And the reason the 1 happened, or the reason it's important, is because of that guy right there, Karch Karai. He has been their coach for 2 years. So for 2 years, they've been going all in on growth mindset. And after they won that gold medal, I got to talk to Karch. We were speaking at the same conference. And he said to me and in his presentation, the reason we were able to win that medal and do something that's never been done before in the history of our program is because we committed to having a growth mindset. He said it changed the way we develop our athletes, it changed the way we give feedback, it changed the way we do everything. And the results are starting to show. There's a guy named LeBron James. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's kind of good at basketball. Can you remember a few years ago when LeBron joined the Miami Heat? They played the Mavericks in the NBA Finals, and what happened? They got worked by the Dallas Mavericks, absolutely crushed. But what a lot of people don't know is after that season, in the offseason, their coach, Eric Spoelstra, had every single player on the team read, oh, that's glass. I was just like the bird that flew into the window there. Every player on the team read Carol Dweck's book, Mindset. And they did a growth mindset workshop, kind of like we're doing right now. They then went on to win back-to-back NBA Finals. Something else happened that offseason that's important, and that is after getting the growth mindset workshop, LeBron committed himself to developing his post skills, where before that season he was mostly a perimeter player. He got a growth mindset workshop and realized, in order for my team and myself to get better, I need to be a more complete player. He had to get out of his comfort zone. He had to get into the wild and develop as a complete player. LeBron has played in every NBA Finals since that offseason, which was a long time ago. This is a tweet he wrote last year saying, "Progress over pride, growth mindset." This is the best basketball player on earth, besides Steph Curry, talking about growth mindset and how it's helping him get better. This is an email I got from Starbucks again last year, and they're asking to use our growth mindset material to help train and develop their employees in their company, one of the biggest and best companies in the world. So what I'm trying to show you is this. This is bigger than just like one study or one book. And this can have an impact on literally anyone, whether it's an Olympic athlete or a second grade student. What I want to talk about is why. Why is this happening? How does it happen? What's causing this gap? How can we use this information? And to understand how it works, we need to look at this table. This table lays out the characteristics of the two mindsets. Quiz time. When it comes to skills and abilities, what do people with a fixed mindset believe about skills and abilities? You got them or you don't. They're set. You have what you have. What about people with a growth mindset? What do they believe? That they can be grown and developed. That is the core belief of the two mindsets. This next section is really important. Through their research, they discovered that the main focus or main concern of somebody with a fixed mindset in any situation they're in, it could be singing in the choir, it could be taking a math test, it could be playing basketball. Their main focus or main concern is how they look to others. And the main concern and main focus of somebody with a growth mindset, according to the research, is getting better and improving. They can still want to win and want to get good grades, but priority number one is learning and growing. Very important. Through their interviews they conducted with people with a fixed or growth mindset, they started to get some ideas about how they look at different things, like effort. People with a fixed mindset see effort as a negative thing, as something that you do when you're not good enough. They either think that they don't have to put in effort, or that putting in effort will not help them. Do you see how that works? Like, if they believe they're already gifted, why would I need to work? And if they believe that they can't get better, why would I put in effort? Either way, they see effort as a negative thing, as something you do when you're not good enough. People with a growth mindset are different. They see it as a positive thing, as something that can help you learn and grow. I think this one might be the most interesting. Challenges. When stuff gets hard. Every person in this room, you're met with challenges almost every day. And the players that you work with, they're met with challenges every day. And the research shows that when stuff gets hard, when they're met with a challenge, people with a fixed mindset tend to give up and check out. And there's 3 reasons they do that. What do you think they are? There's some clues on the table. 3 reasons someone with a fixed mindset would give up and check out when it gets hard. What's that? Yes, that's number 1. They don't want to look bad. As we all know, when stuff gets hard in life, you're not necessarily looking your best. And if that's your number 1 concern, if your main focus is how you look, you want out. Another thing that happens when you're met with a challenge is you usually have to work harder. And if you don't believe in putting in effort, you want out. And then the big one, if you don't believe in your ability to improve, you can't figure it out at first, why would you keep working? They don't believe in their ability to improve. People with a fixed mindset give up and check out because of one of those 3 reasons. I would say most of the problems we see in school and in sports can be tied back to one of those things. It's students not believing in their ability to learn, people not wanting to put in the effort, or athletes and students that are so worried about how they look that they back down. And when I say give up and check out, I don't mean like they literally just walk out of the gym, which happens sometimes, but these are also the players that stop trying. They're trying to protect their ego, so they have that excuse. Oh, I wasn't even trying anyways. We see it all the time. People with a growth mindset, according to the research, they've been shown to persevere and work through a challenging situation. Why do you think that would be? Yes, 2 big reasons is, number 1, they believe in their ability to figure it out. So if they can't get it at first, if it's hard for them at first, they say, hey, it's okay if I keep working, I can figure it out. And the second is, their number 1 concern or main focus is getting better. So now they see a challenge as an opportunity to grow, as a good thing. Yes, this is hard. Yes, this is frustrating. And yes, this can help me grow. With that attitude, they now have a purpose. They have a why. That gives them the fuel to keep working. They understand that there is value in the challenge, not a threat within the challenge. How do you think people with a fixed mindset feel about making mistakes? Absolutely hate making mistakes. Absolutely hate making mistakes, because if you're making mistakes, you're not looking good. They will go out of their way to avoid situations where they might make mistakes. And when they do make mistakes, they get worked up and it takes over. What about people with a growth mindset? How do you think they feel about making mistakes? Part of learning, exactly. Mistakes are a part of the learning process. Okay? Now I want to show you what this looks like. I'm going to show you my favorite video on YouTube. Gotta mute it, there's some choice language. Okay, so what did we see? What did he just do a lot of? He did a lot of falling, a lot of falling. Now, do you see how that is a living, breathing example of a growth mindset? Was his main concern figuring it out or how he looked? Figuring it out. Because if his main concern was how he looked, he would have tried it twice and been like, hey, let's do a different trick. Because he wasn't looking good. Did he believe in his ability to figure it out? Absolutely. He knew, if I keep working, I can figure this out. And I think he obviously showed a lot of effort as well. And my favorite part of the video was this. He fell on that last attempt, and he was laying there all bruised up. And what did he say? I think I got it. It clicked in his head, right? That was the aha moment. And what I want to point out is this. The aha moment would never happen unless he crashed 30 or 40 times. I wasn't counting before. Like the aha moment cannot happen without the mistakes. I used to tell people mistakes are okay. I'm changing that. Mistakes are necessary. You have to make mistakes in order to learn something. Just like when you learn to walk and just like when you learn to ride a bike. You had to make those mistakes in order to figure it out. We have to celebrate mistakes for what they are. They are learning opportunities. Period. Now, back to this table, a couple things I want to point out. You are not just one or the other. You're not just fixed, you're not just growth. In different situations in life, you're going to be on different ends of the spectrum. For me, in basketball, I always had a growth mindset. I loved playing people that were bigger, faster, and stronger than me because I knew it would help me get better. Put me on a dance floor, I have the most fixed mindset ever because I don't want to look bad. And I avoid dancing at all costs because I don't want to look bad. That's why I can't dance. So in different situations, you, your players, your kids are going to be on different ends of the spectrum. The key is, if you understand this table, you can begin to identify where you're at. So if you're in a situation and you're not really, you feel like giving up because you don't think you can figure it out, you now know that's a fixed mindset. If you're in a situation and you don't feel like putting in the effort, you now know that's a fixed mindset. The characteristics help us identify where we're at. Now, if this was last year or the 3 years before that, I'd be done with this talk right now. I'd be like, yo, look at these graphs. Mindset's important. Everyone's using it. There's what it is. See ya. But that's not good enough. What I want to do now is talk to you about how do you run with this? How can you teach your players to run with this and to have a growth mindset even when stuff goes wrong? Because that's what really matters. It's easy to have a growth mindset when everything's going well, when everything is easy. When it really matters, when it's really important is how can you stay on the green side? How can you stay in a growth mindset when the wheels start to fall off? And I think there's two really important things that matter to make that happen. I call them the makers and the breakers of mindset. If you do these two things within yourself and within your program, you will create a growth mindset. The two makers and breakers are your beliefs towards learning and then sort of what you value. What is your culture about? Let's talk about beliefs first, and I'm going to talk about why they matter so much. This is a highly technical cycle that I've come up with called the SFCOHTGGAS. It's also known as the self-fulfilling cycle of how to get good at shit. Might see it in a textbook someday. So let's talk about how it works. Belief feeds into action, action to results, and results back to belief. Let's look at somebody with a growth mindset. What do they believe about their ability to learn and grow? Big picture is what? That they can. Someone with a growth mindset believes in their ability to learn and grow. And with that belief, they do all the things that can help them learn and grow. They keep working even when it gets hard. They like to put in effort, and they see mistakes as learning opportunities. Those three things will help you get better at absolutely anything. Because they believe in their ability to do that, because they have a growth mindset, they do those things. And by doing those three things, they see progress and they see results. And those results confirm their belief. And every time they go through the cycle, it strengthens their belief. Do you see why it's called self-fulfilling? Because they believe in their ability to learn and grow, and then what do they end up doing? learning and growing, self-fulfilling. Now, it's not as simple as, I believe I could shoot like Steph Curry, and then tomorrow I'm like money. No, that's why action's in the table. But I'm here to tell you, you're never going to put in the action unless you have the belief. And the action could take years, it could take months, it could take all sorts of mistakes and effort. But if you don't have the belief, you're never going to put in the action, because look at what happens to somebody with a fixed mindset. What do they believe about their ability to learn and grow? That they can't. And because that is their belief, they avoid the three things that can help them grow. They don't like to put in effort. They give up when it gets hard. And they avoid and hate making mistakes. And by avoiding the three things that can help you get better, of course they're not going to see much progress. That confirms their belief, and this is also self-fulfilling. They believe that they can't learn and grow, and then they end up not learning and growing. The reason this cycle is important is because if we can change the belief, you change the whole system. If you yourself, and if you can get your players to believe in their ability to learn and grow, you change the whole system. From what we found, the best way to do that is to talk about this, your brain, and how it learns. Now, we could dive deep into neuroscience and all the research about how our brains are malleable and how all of our brains are like literally designed to learn and pick up on new things. But I like to use Trevor science. And Trevor science about all this research says this: your brain is like a muscle. We don't have to spend weeks talking about the brain science. We can talk about it like this because we understand how muscles work. And you can have this conversation with your players. If I was in the weight room doing a set of 10 curls, which I do all the time, as you could tell, I'm doing a set of 10 curls, which rep out of the 10 is the hardest to do? The 10th. The 10th is where I get the arm shake, I turn purple, the veins are popping out of my head, there's struggle. By far, the 10th rep is the hardest. Which rep out of the 10 is the most important to develop muscles and strength? The 10th rep and 11th rep, if you're a maniac, all of the reps are important because they get you to the point of failure. But when you're at that point and hold it and you're shaking, like that's where the strength comes from. That's where the magic happens. That's where strength comes from. Your brain is the same. All of that research shows that when you stretch and challenge your brain and get it out of its comfort zone, it is designed to learn better and faster in that zone. Your brain is like a muscle. Every person in this room, you have the tools right here in your head to learn and get better at anything that you want, period. Is everyone going to turn into Einstein and Steph Curry? No. Are there head starts? Sure. But everybody in this room and everybody that you work with has the tools to get really, really good at anything they want. But they have to believe in that. They have to believe in that. There's another great book I want to talk about called The Talent Code by Daniel Coil. It's getting kind of old right now, but this book started all of this for me. Daniel Coil wrote essentially like the Bible of skill and talent development, talking about how it really works. This guy's one of the leading experts in the field. And he wrote a blog a couple of years ago that I want to share with you. He says this: what will our grandkids be laughing about in 2061? Here's my answer: brain education. I think our grandkids will look back and say, back in 2014, parents and teachers wanted kids to learn, but somehow they didn't bother teaching kids the most important part, how the learning machine actually works. What the heck were those people thinking? And our grandkids will be absolutely positively right. Right now, teachers and parents and coaches in our society focus their attention on teaching the material, whether it's algebra, soccer, or music. This is the equivalent of trying to train athletes without informing them that muscles exist. It's like teaching nutrition without mentioning vegetables or vitamins. We cram our classrooms with whiz-bang technology, but fail to teach the kids how their own circuits are built to operate. It's all understandable, of course. Our parenting and teaching practices evolved in an industrial age when we presumed that potential was innate and our brains were fixed, just as we presumed smoking was healthy and 3 martini lunches were normal. But that doesn't make it right. In fact, you could argue that teaching a child how their brain works is not just an educational strategy, it's closer to a human right. He goes on to explain like the brain Bill of Rights. Every child has the right to know how their brain grows. Every child has the right to a teacher who understands how skill develops. Every child has the right to an environment that's aligned with the way skills grow in the brain. He's talking about the importance of brain education, of teaching students, players, about their learning machine and how it works and how it can learn just about anything. Do you see how understanding this science and talking about this science will get someone to a growth mindset? Because a growth mindset is simply the belief in your ability to learn and grow, and then this brain science is saying your brain is built to learn and grow. So understanding the science and having these conversations will help get you there. Let's talk about values, culture. What are you about? What is your program about? So quick recap. What was the main focus or main concern of someone with the growth mindset? Do you remember? Their main focus with the growth mindset. Yep, learning and getting better. And what was the main focus over here with the fixed mindset? How they look. It's how they look. This is really important to talk about. And what I'm going to do now is, again, I like books, so I forgot this one in my hotel room, but I remember what he said. There's a book called The Art of Learning by Josh Waitzkin, and it's incredible. Highly recommend checking it out. This book is about Josh Waitzkin's journey, and I don't know if you've heard of him, but at the age of like 6, this kid was winning chess world championships. And he won like every age group world championship you could win in chess all the way up till his early 20s. In his early 20s, he did what anyone would do after winning all the world championships you can win in chess. He quit and jumped into the world of martial arts, sort of the natural jump there. And after a few years in martial arts, he's winning world championships there now. It's safe to say that Josh Waitzkin's one of the best learners around. And he wrote a book about his journey. And guess what the first 3 chapters are about? Growth mindset. About how his parents and coaches and teachers use this science to help him get really, really good at chess. About how he used this science to get really, really good at martial arts. This is a little passage from the book. In my experience, successful people shoot for the stars. They put their hearts on the line in every battle and ultimately discover that the lessons learned from the pursuit of excellence mean much more than the immediate trophies and glory. In the long run, painful losses may prove much more valuable than wins, and those who are armed with a healthy attitude, or growth mindset, are able to draw wisdom from every experience, the good and the bad. I'm going to repeat that part. Those who are armed with a healthy attitude are able to draw wisdom from every experience, the good and the bad. They are the ones who make it down the road, and they are the ones that are happier along the way. What he's saying is this. People with a growth mindset get more out of the experiences and opportunities that they're presented with. Why? Because their main focus is getting better. And when your main focus is getting better, you don't mind making mistakes. You don't mind taking on a challenge. You don't mind getting out of your comfort zone because you know that'll help you grow. So important. Have you guys heard of a guy named Seth Godin? Maybe not. Seth Godin is like my hero in life. Absolute hero. I spent 4 years emailing Seth Godin to try to get an interview with him, and he never replied. It hurt my heart. But a few months ago, he replied, and we Skyped for like 2 hours about learning about the misconceptions. And I'm going to show you a little clip. Again, I asked him, what do the most successful people have in common? And he said, they are great learners. Okay? And I'm going to show you this little clip. He's talking about these great learners.
Hi, my name is Seth Godin. I'm the author of 17 bestsellers. I've started a bunch of companies. I write a blog, but mostly I fail. I fail often, and I can't possibly learn good. I call it thirstiness. That if you are thirsty, it means that you are willing to feel stupid. You are willing to try. You are willing to expose yourself to the unknown in order to state what your desires are to get to the next level.
Do you see how somebody with a fixed mindset has a lot working against them when it comes to learning? They don't believe that they can learn and grow, and then like Seth said, they can't handle the tension of not knowing. Because when you don't know, when you're doing something new, you are not looking good. And that is what they worry about the most. Because of those things, they really, really struggle with learning. Let's talk about the fixed mindset. Their main concern is how they look, and because that's their main concern, they avoid new situations, they avoid taking risks, they avoid challenges, they give up when it gets hard. And I guarantee every person in this room has done that. I know I have a lot. We all have a fixed mindset within us. And there's a couple reasons. There's a couple sources of this fixed mindset. One is internal. They call it your amygdala or lizard brain, and it's the voice in your head telling you to play it safe. I wish we had another hour together because I would talk to you about that. The other reason that we like to be zoo tigers and like it in our comfort zone and we like to look good, why we have a fixed mindset, is external. It's the words that we hear, the praise that we hear, the feedback that we hear. And there is some fascinating research about that. I'm going to show you a quick video. This is a study that Dweck did. Uh-oh. Got it.
So check this out. Dweck and her colleagues wanted to look into the impacts that praise had on children's development. So what they did is they took over 400 fifth grade students from all across the nation and they did a really simple yet interesting study. Here's how it went down. They gave all the kids a really, really easy nonverbal IQ test. There were 10 questions, and at the end of the test, they praised all the children in one of two ways. The first group was praised for their intelligence. So they said, "Wow, great job, you must be really smart at this." Now the second group was praised for their effort. So they said, "Wow, great job, you must have worked really, really hard at this." Now this is a really subtle difference, but the impact it had is incredible.
All right, just so we're on the same page. They all take an easy test that they're going to absolutely do well on. Half of them were praised for the outcomes or their abilities. Wow, great job, you're so smart. And the other group was praised for more of the process or the effort. Great job, you must have worked hard. Okay, so we have maybe an abilities or outcomes group, and then we have the process group.
So after praising the kids and getting them divided up into the two groups, they gave them all an option for their next test. The first option was, hey, this next test is going to be a little bit harder, but it's going to be a great opportunity to learn and grow. Now the second option was, this next test will be similar to the first, and you will surely do well on it.
Based on everything you know about learning and development as teachers and coaches, what do you think would be a better option if you're trying to get better? The harder one. If you take a test and do really well on it and then take the same test again, you're not being challenged, you're not being stretched. Without a doubt, the harder version is a better opportunity to grow.
Now the interesting thing is, out of the group that was praised for their intelligence, 67% of them chose the easier option, while 92% of the kids who were praised for their effort chose the harder test.
Dang, we need to talk about those type of results. Almost 70% of the group that was praised for being smart and their abilities said, I will take the easy test. Why? Yes, they wanted to look good again. Watch how the progression goes. I take the test, I do well on it. The teacher says, wow, you are so smart. Okay? I go, that feels good. I want to look smart again. And if that is my main goal, of course I want to take the easy test. If my main focus is how I look and looking good again, yes, give me the easy test so I can look good again. What is their main focus now? How they look. What mindset are they likely in if their number one concern is performance and how they look? Fixed. One sentence put them there. One sentence put their focus on how you look and looking good again. Yeah, give me the easy test. Almost 90% of the group that was praised for their process or the effort said, give me the hard one. Why would that be? They wanted to put in effort again. They know, hey, you praised me for being a hard worker. Give me the hard test so I can work hard again. And taking on that challenge and putting in effort, those are all characteristics of a growth mindset. The key is the focus. That one sentence of feedback put their focus on looking good and put their focus on the process of getting better. One sentence can put you into a fixed mindset or growth mindset. Let's see what else happens.
This is unbelievable to think about, how just the subtle difference in the way that they were praised had such an impact. Carol,
Stretching themselves, they're doing boom. I don't take on.
Dweck and her colleagues gave all the kids a really, really difficult test. It was one that they would surely fail, but they wanted to look at how the different kids attacked this challenge. Dweck noticed that the group that was praised for effort worked harder, longer, and actually enjoyed this test more than the group that was praised for their intelligence. This group got really frustrated with this test and had the tendency to give up early.
Now, this is really important because in the third round of the study, they gave them all a hard test. Another great opportunity to learn and grow. What did this group do when they were met with the hard test, the fixed mindset group? What did they do? They gave up, and how did they feel? They were frustrated. This group worked harder, longer, and actually enjoyed that challenge. Now, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to connect those dots, but which group got more from that opportunity? The group that enjoyed it and worked longer, or the group that was frustrated and gave up? That group. And that is the core of all of this, because all of the students were presented with the exact same opportunity. The exact same opportunity. One group took advantage of it because their focus was on putting in effort and taking on the challenge and getting better. One group missed that opportunity because they were so worked up about performance and how they look. They had the same opportunity. Just like in the first graph that I showed you that went like this, those students took the same math classes with the same teachers and same assignments. One group just got more out of it than the other, and it all goes back to their mindset. I'm going to stop the video there because I think we're running out of time here. I want to put some examples on this and talk about our feedback and how we can run with it. In the summary of the video, we talk about, like, the big takeaway from that video is that feedback that's directed at outcomes and abilities can be destructive, and that feedback that's directed at the process or effort can be helpful. And that this type of feedback can create a fixed mindset culture, and that this type of feedback can create a growth mindset culture. So let's look at some examples. These are things we hear and that we say every day. Oh, that's nice. A student gets an A on a math test, and if they were to get feedback directed at that outcome or their abilities, what would that sound like? Wow, you're so smart at math. Here's a candy bar or something like that. They get an A on a test, they get praise for their abilities. You're such a natural, you're so good at math, things like that. If a student or player has a bad game, if a kid has a bad game, and they're getting feedback directed at their abilities, what might that sound like? You were horrible tonight. You were off tonight. You suck tonight. What are things they might say to themselves? I suck. I suck at math. I suck tonight. Do you see how that feedback, the positive kind and the negative kind, is all talking about outcomes and abilities? I suck. You were bad. You cannot get an F on that test. Things like that. Let's talk about basketball for a second. I'm going up for a wide open layup and I miss. What is the feedback I might hear if it's directed at abilities and outcomes? What might I hear? I might get the eye roll by the teammate, My grandma's in the stands like, you can't miss that, it's a layup. The coach throws the clipboard And all of that is different ways of saying that was a bad shot. Are you with me? Like all of that is different ways of saying, whether it's my grandma yelling at me, my coach, my teammates, whatever. All different ways of saying that was a bad shot. Now let's unpack it for a second. When a student gets an A on the math test, or actually let's talk about the study. When the students did well and they were praised for their abilities, what did their main focus become? The ones that were praised for ability. Yeah, looking good. Big picture was they were praised for their ability, their main focus became how they look. Just like if a student gets an A on a math test and everybody praises him for being a natural, for being smart, the next time he takes the test, he's thinking about that. I better get an A again. In other words, his main concern is how he looks. And if a kid fails a math test or has a bad game, and his teacher tells him that was a horrible job on the test, and he gets punished at home, and his teammates say that was a horrible game tonight, what's he thinking about the next game? Dang, I don't want to play bad again. His main focus is, again, how he looks. And if I miss this layup and my grandma yells at me and the coach throws his clipboard, and a few minutes go by in the game and I get a steal, and I'm going up for another layup, what is in the back of my head? What am I thinking about? Oh crap, I don't want to miss this again. In other words, my main focus is how I look. All of those types of feedback, and we could go through like 50 more examples. All of those types of feedback shift the focus to performance and how people look. Therefore, all of those types of feedback can put people into a fixed mindset. So how can we fix that? How can we change that? There's a few principles that we can talk about. Principles of good feedback. We like to keep it simple. Explain why. If it was good, why? If it was bad, why? And this is my favorite one. Acknowledge the outcome and focus on the process. Acknowledge the outcome and focus on the process. So how would that work? How would that work? Instead of saying, wow, you are so smart at math, great job, you're a natural, what could we tell them? How could we focus on the process more? Yeah, you must have worked hard. We acknowledge the outcome. We say, yo, that was a great job on the test. You must have worked hard, or you did all your assignments. That was a great game tonight. Your work is showing. If you don't know what they did in the process, ask them. That is the best feedback you can give. Man, you were awesome tonight. What have you been doing to work on your shooting? That was a great job on the test. How did you learn that? Do you see how that question shifts their focus to the process, not just their abilities? Now, the acknowledge the outcome part is important because I think some people get the wrong message with growth mindset of like, oh, just always tell people they're a hard worker and everything is great. You can be real with this. You can acknowledge outcomes. If somebody has a bad game, you don't just give them fake feedback of, oh, you're fine, just keep working hard. If they have a bad game, you can talk about it. You can be real and you can say, look, you know and I know that wasn't your best game tonight. But I noticed you were really rushing your shots. Let's work on it together. Do you see how I acknowledge the outcome? I acknowledge what happened. I'm being real, but then I took the focus to the process. How do we fix it? You know and I know that wasn't your best performance on that test. You missed this type of problem. Let's work on that together. Acknowledge the outcome and focus on the process. Same applies to the basketball example. Do you think if I miss a layup and my coach goes, you can't miss that shot, am I going to be like, oh, damn, coach, you're right, I shouldn't miss layups? Like, I know that I shouldn't miss. I saw that I missed. And you telling me that just makes it more likely I'm going to miss the next one. How about telling me, hey, you took off from too far away, one more dribble, you got the next one. Hey, you really rushed that, slow down, take your time, you got the next one. So much more helpful. Now, I'm going fast here, so I hope this is making sense. This type of feedback focused on abilities and outcomes can be incredibly destructive. Why? Because it creates a fixed mindset, and we saw what happens with that. This type of feedback can be incredibly helpful. Why? Because it creates a growth mindset. I wanted to put some numbers on this. So on the Train Ugly website, I made a sheet that people could download. And people from all over the world downloaded a sheet, and then they tracked the feedback that they heard throughout the day. We had students from all over the world do this. We collected 2,000 examples of feedback. And then I measured and divided it all up. What percent of the feedback that a student or young athlete, what percent of the feedback they hear throughout the day do you think is that kind? 75. Yeah. Over 3/4, 76% of the feedback that a young student athlete hears throughout the day is the destructive kind that puts their focus on how they look in their performance. 76% of the feedback they hear can put them in a fixed mindset. And only 24% is the useful kind, the helpful kind. That is a big problem. The other interesting thing that we learned is the number 52. My dad's a math teacher, so I know this. 52% is more than half. The number one source of feedback, 52% of the feedback that a student or young athlete hears throughout the day does not come from you, does not come from their parents. It comes from their teammates. Peer-to-peer feedback, it ends up, is the number one source of feedback that a young athlete hears. Therefore, peer-to-peer feedback is the big problem with that. In order to fix this, we have to have conversations with our players and our students about this type of feedback. And that is how we fix that problem. Do you need to give them the right type of feedback? Absolutely. But we also have to teach them. Teaching them can change an entire culture of a team. I can say that because I've seen it with the USA volleyball team. They have open practice. You can go watch yourself. I've never seen anything like it. Their culture, their program is unreal to see. The reason why is because they've gone all in on the feedback. All in on the feedback. They changed the way that everybody communicates with each other. And now you're sitting there and you're like, Trev, I don't work with Olympians, man. I don't know if I can do this, okay? There's one last story I want to share with you. A woman from Australia. She's a teacher, a 4th grade teacher in Australia. She saw that video that we made and she emailed me. And she said, I want to teach my students how to give the right type of feedback. So Tammy and I did a workshop, or we designed a lesson and workshop around this idea. So what they did is, again, 4th graders, they all picked out their favorite bug and drew it. In Australia, they call bugs creepy crawlies, which is weird, but they all got to draw their favorite bug. Looks like about 4th grade level drawing. After they drew their bug, they did a workshop that taught the students how to give the right type of feedback. They showed them that video and had a couple conversations about how important it is to give feedback that focuses on the process, not on abilities and outcomes. And then the students were divided up into small groups where they practiced giving this growth mindset feedback. They presented their bug, helped each other out. They did 3 rounds of this. After the 3rd round, those are the bugs that they drew. Whoa. And those are the same students after 3 rounds of this. That's incredible results, incredible progress. And why did that happen? Because they were getting useful feedback, not destructive feedback. And the best part about this study was not the end result. The best part of this study is the observations that Tammy made. She said, honestly, if we did that exercise before talking about growth mindset, all of the conversations that we would hear in the classroom are like, Sarah, your butterfly looks weird. Or Sam, you're so good at drawing. Like, that's what you would hear in any classroom. All of the conversation would be about outcomes and abilities. But what Tammy noticed is none of those happened. She said all of the things that the students were saying to one another had nothing to do with outcomes and abilities. It had everything to do with drawing better bugs. It wasn't telling someone how great they are or how bad they were. It was, hey, I see what you're doing with the butterfly. Add a little bit more detail or a little bit more color, and it'll look better. They helped each other draw better bugs. And it changed the whole culture of that classroom, and I think the results speak for themselves. The last quote I'm going to leave you with is my boy Karch again. I think this summarizes everything. He says, the bottom line, I'm going to go over here so I don't botch this. Job one for all of us, starting with me, starting with our staff, but also our players, is to be learners and embrace the growth mindset. We have to be in a constant state of learning. What he's saying is, this isn't a one-time thing. It's not like, oh, I got a growth mindset, now I'm good. It's a commitment to always growing and always learning and always improving. The last part, I think, is the most relevant for us. We have to create a safe environment to do that in. We have to create an environment that's based on growth mindset, where it is okay to get ugly and okay to make mistakes because we know how learning works. And that brings us back to those two makers and breakers. We have to create an environment that teaches students about their ability to learn and grow, and we have to create an environment that values what learning actually is. And what learning actually is ugly and wild, and it happens in the jungle just like the tigers. We have to create a safe environment for that to happen. Punishing mistakes and benching players for messing up and creating this system where all we care about is performance absolutely squashes that. That's my personal email right there. I know we covered a ton of stuff. If you have questions, shoot me an email. There's also a lot of resources on the website. Everything on the website is free. Everything that I learn goes up on the website. Thank you guys so much.